Good evening. You're watching Times Now. I'm Shreya Upadhyay. We have just had a detailed press conference by the DGMOs of the Indian Army, Navy and the Air Force, breaking down for the nation how exactly they carried out Operation Sindhoor and the impact that it has had on Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. On the show tonight, we break down for you this very impact that Operation Sindhoor has had on Pakistan, the details of India's most decisive and strategic retaliation against terror. 9 terror camps destroyed, 10 Pakistani air bases and military infrastructure struck. More than 100 terrorists killed and 35 to 40 Pakistani army personnel have been killed. Chaklala Air Base near Islamabad and Pakistani radars destroyed by the Indian Armed Forces. All of this because Pakistan escalated the situation with first the Pahalgam attack, then targeting civilians and sending a wave of armed UAVs and quadcopters towards the entire Indian Western Front. The Indian Armed Forces were very clear in saying that India's response has been precise, measured, calibrated, and ready to strike back if Pakistan again escalates.
We have quantitative and qualitative edge to deliver a massive blow to our adversary. Indian Navy's action is part of the escalation ladder mechanism which we have worked out amongst 3 services. This time, if Pakistan dare take any action, and Pakistan knows it, what we are going to do.
Their planes were prevented from coming inside our border. All right. So we do not have the wreckage with us, but definitely we have downed a few planes. Numbers, we would not like to hazard a guess out here. Okay. I have the numbers, okay, and we are getting into the technical details of it to establish it. So I would not like to put a figure at this time, but definitely there are losses from their side which we have inflicted.
Remember, the government's message has been crystal clear as well. This is a new security doctrine, a doctrine of uncompromising retaliation, total deterrence, and strategic clarity against terrorism and its sponsors. Earlier today, the Indian Air Force made it clear that Operation Sindhoor is not over yet. India has made it clear to America and the world that if they fire, we will fire, and if they attack, we will attack. Pakistan and the world must accept this reality. It's a stance that India did not have earlier. Now remember, at the heart of this operation was also Bahawalpur, Jaish-e-Mohammed's headquarters, built and nurtured by the ISI. It was the most severely damaged site by Operation Sindhoor. The photographs of that were also showed in the press conference. India directly hit Pakistan's terror nerve center. This wasn't just military retaliation. It was a symbolic takedown of the ISI-Jaish Nexus. And unlike the past, the only line of communication was through the Directors General of Military Operations, or the DGMOs. Sources have also revealed that Prime Minister Narendra Modi has given out firm instructions, bullet for a bullet. If there's a bullet from that side, there will be cannons from this side. The tipping point came with the attack on Pakistani air bases. That changed everything, making Pakistan realize that it was on a weak footing. 3 strategic objectives have been achieved. 1, the military objective. Terror dens in Bahawalpur, Muridke, Muzaffarabad and several other locations have been flattened. 2, the political objective. Indus Waters Treaty was put in abeyance, essentially saying no water if you send terror. 3, psychological objective. India struck inside mainland Pakistan. Pakistan was caught off guard. Now, the DGMOs also made it clear that it was Pakistani DGMO that proposed ceasing of hostilities. Now, even as India achieved her objectives, US President Donald Trump was quick to claim credit, announcing the understanding reached between India and Pakistan. Sources say when American Vice President J.D. Vance conveyed concerns after the New York Times report, Prime Minister Modi categorically told him that if Pakistan does something again, our response will be even more devastating. In fact, US Senator Marco Rubio reportedly conveyed to India that Pakistan's Army Chief Asim Munir was willing to stop, but India's response was clear. Let them call the DGMO. There will be no political dialogue. Now, the US president then made another post offering to mediate the Kashmir issue, which as per him is a 1,000-year-old conflict. India's position on Kashmir, remember, is crystal clear. The only issue left is the return of Pakistan-occupied Kashmir. No mediation and no third party is needed to resolve this issue. So that, ladies and gentlemen, has been the little takeaway that came out of that press conference, a very detailed, thorough press conference that was held. Let's try and decode this for you and, of course, understand the American and the Chinese angle as well into this entire situation. On the broadcast, I'm joined by Colonel Shailendra Singh. He's a defense expert. Major General Sanjay Meston, defense analyst, joining us. Prabhu Dayal, former ambassador, is also on the broadcast, as well as Abhijit Iyer Mitra, senior fellow at the IPCS. Good evening and namaskar to all of you. Colonel Shailendra Singh, let me begin with you. A very detailed and perhaps a much needed press conference that was done by the DGMOs short while back. The entire nation was glued to the television as they gave point-by-point explanation of what has been going on since the 7th of May. Your big takeaways and what you think India has achieved with Operation Sindhoor currently?
Jai Hind, Namaskar. I can only tell you one thing. It is not only the Indian population which was watching. It is the complete world watching this, that what will be brought out after this so-called ceasefire. You must, there are words which matter a lot.
Yes.
What is the word used by the naval person? He said, Pakistan dare. This word doesn't come so easily.
Yeah.
It came to him so naturally. It is not a normal English. It is a show of confidence that if they dare. What did the Air Force person say? Wow, beautiful. What did he say? I have the number, but I don't want to give you. You know, somebody may ask, okay, why will you not give the number? So I would rather say, Meri marzi, main nahi de raha. What I have done, I know. I think Indian Army, Indian government is conveying very clearly that we are now what we are, and we will speak to you in a position of strength. International community, my fourth objective, the three you counted, my fourth objective is that here we are, either you are with us or you are not with us. Jay Shankar said it so well. Gyan nahi chahiye. We don't want any gyan anymore. You please decide whether you are with us or not, because otherwise also we are going the way we are. And by the way, there is no disrespect meant to anybody. We honor the international community. We understand what is the importance of that. But that cannot be at the cost of my country. I think India is conveying this world over and strengthening the belief of Indians in it.
Okay.
Take pride in what we are.
Okay. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, you know, the fact that we're speaking about the international community at the moment, I think one of the things that came out of this press conference was the Indian Army DGMO saying that it was Pakistan's DGMO who proposed the ceasing of hostilities. And that clarifies everything that India has to when we talk of a Donald Trump making that announcement. And the fact that just after that announcement, it was Shehbaz Sharif who ran and addressed his nation to claim victory over India, the kind of desperation that Pakistan wants to cover up with this kind of an address. Abhijit, I request you to unmute yourself, please.
Sorry. If you remember, Shreya, what happened at Balakot, you know, every Western newspaper was out to prove that we hit nothing, we only hit crows. The New York Times' favorite OSINT specialist even got the angle of attack wrong. And he said, you know, those 3 holes in the roof were optical illusions or whatever. It bought us 5 years of peace. Because, you know, we killed off the masters and PhD class of terrorists. I hate using that term, but that's what we killed off in Balakot. And for 5 years till the Riyasi attack in November last year, we bought ourselves peace. So, you know, what our military is saying here is very true. The technical details are kind of irrelevant out here, as long as you've bought yourself another 5 to 6 to maybe 10 years worth of peace, because remember, the damage here is much more significant. Now, when it comes to Donald Trump, well, Donald Trump likes to take the credit for everything. Some of it deserved, some of it not deserved. Congratulations to him. The third is, you tell me, Shreya, when has Pakistan ever admitted defeat? When have they ever admitted, you know, in 71, their story even now is that they might have lost East Pakistan, but in West Pakistan, they won a famous victory. You know, Chuck Yeager, the first man to break the sound barrier in the X-1 aircraft, also backed up their version of events. Would you believe that 71 was a Pakistan victory? No. 1965 is celebrated as the Defense of Pakistan Day, where they apparently won a famous victory against India. Who asked for peace that time? In 71, who asked for peace? Who do you think asked for peace here? We now know from the CNN report that it was the Americans that leaned on us, given some nuclear intel that they got. And at that point, it was their DGMO which very clearly called us. Now, you look at the number of Pakistanis going around saying, oh, he did it. Oh, he did it. Oh, he did it. No. We never asked for anything.
Yeah.
Listen, who is in the precarious position right now, Shreya? Who's got pathetic, puny reserves? Who has to beg for IMF handouts?
Yeah.
We look like we're in any rush to get anything over quickly.
Yeah. Ambassador Dayal, this is, something that is being, speculated about a lot. And Abhijit is right in saying, look at the one who's desperate among the two parties. It is obviously Pakistan. India has nothing to lose. India is developing economically. It's a stable economy. And therefore, Pakistan is the one going door to door asking for support. So a lot of those people who are questioning the Prime Minister today, saying that, why did you have this understanding and why did you not also address the nation or address a press conference, should just look at the way Pakistan has handled. We have had our military prowess right there on display. We've had the DGMOs explain everything. And, as has been India's response, calibrated and measured, so has been the government's handling of this entire situation.
Well, Shreya, you're absolutely right. There may be people suggesting that Prime Minister Modi should have addressed the conference or something like that. But look, it has been very professionally done. It was a military operation, and therefore it was important that the three DGMOs speak to the press and apprise them of the developments. Now, you also rightly said that President Trump may be claiming credit or trying to take the credit for mediating between India and Pakistan and facilitating the ceasefire. But the fact of the matter is, as you said, it is the Pakistani DGMO who called our DGMO, and he did so because Pakistan was receiving a battering. Pakistan was getting bashed up by the Indian armed forces, and they were desperate. So, whether or not Mr. Trump likes it, the fact is that it is the Pakistanis who sued for peace, who approached us for peace. And they were doing so because they are in a bad shape already. You rightly referred to the sort of condition which Pakistan is. It's economically shattered. The economy is in doldrums. And now they are fighting this battle against us because they have been abetting terrorism. Our fight was not against Pakistan as such. Our operation was targeted against the terrorists. And we said that our operation is non-escalatory. Yeah. But if you escalate, we will retaliate. And Pakistan foolishly escalated, and we had to retaliate. And then Pakistan was bleeding so many times all over its polity. It had been struck at so many places. And the blows that we struck were visible to the Pakistanis. I've seen so many videos of Pakistanis staring at, buildings which had been shattered or sites which had been attacked. So, regardless of what the Pakistani establishment might like to say, no one was blind to what was happening, even within Pakistan. They all knew.
Absolutely, and I think nobody is also blind to the fact that Pakistan cannot be trusted. General Meston, the kind of gains that Operation Sindhoor has made, more than 100 terrorists killed, including the accused of the IC 814 hijack, 35 to 40 Pakistani personnel being killed in the Indian strikes, obviously reflects the kind of skill and expertise that we have had from our armed forces in making sure there is no collateral damage. But obviously we know Pakistan will never accept this. This is a country which didn't accept its own soldiers during the Kargil conflict.
Shreya, absolutely. Firstly, let's be clear, the Indian Army had been given very clear strategic objectives. Basically, it was to destroy the terrorist camps and obviously the terrorists who were staying there. And also, an adjacent was that the message has to be sent very strongly to the Pakistan Army. And when I say Pakistan Army, I say the Pakistani top leadership, which is basically their Army Chief, Asim Munir. Now, have we achieved our strategic objectives? The answer is yes. Now, I'll analyze it how. We have destroyed, and you rightfully gave the, just in the same question, the answer also. We have destroyed the 9 terrorist camps without any collateral damage, destroyed their about 100, killed their 100 odd terrorists, and also some of the leading, the high value targets were killed as highlighted by the DGM, and we are aware about those names. Second is, we also conveyed a very strong message to Pakistan Army that we will not accept terrorism, and therefore they invited it. And how did they invite? Because the same night, they sent swarms of drones, and the next night, and therefore we had a very measured retaliation. But I think the third night, when again they started targeting our military and air bases and logistics centers, I think that is the time when we struck there about 9 airfields. And this was again to send a strong message to the Pakistan leadership, to the Pakistan Army, and that was that you are not safe. And we targeted the heartland of Pakistan, which is Pakistan, Punjab, and especially some of the airfields which are very important to them. For example, Noor Khan airfield, that is a Chaklala, which is very close to Peshawar, their GHQ headquarters, and this is where Munir is centered. So, and there, in fact, if you remember when the photographs were shown on the video, there a huge building was destroyed.
Yes.
So it is conveying a very strong message to them that your leadership now can be trapped and can be destroyed in any of the buildings wherever you are. So this has been a very strong message, and besides that, we have achieved quite a good air. We have targeted a lot of the air defense assets, their radars. So many, I think 5 of the radar sites were targeted. The airfield runways were targeted. Some of the hangars were targeted. So it is multi-targeting, and no collateral damage there. In the bargain, whether it was a exchange of fire along the line of control or on the IP, whatever actions we have taken, Pakistan has suffered about 35 to 40 casualties killed.
So
we have conveyed a very strong
message that has been done by Indian strikes on Pakistan. But Colonel Singh, just the fact that the presser also talked about what all of us, in fact, had witnessed, that of the wave of armed UAVs that had come towards the Western Front, the entire Western Front, as well as the Northern Front of the international border. And then the quadcopters came the next night. That, of course, reflects that Pakistan has been continuing to escalate this entire situation. And therefore, the logical question is, what do you expect? What do you think is going to be the next few steps? Should we expect more treachery by Pakistan? That is something, of course, Pakistan is known for as well.
You had said Pakistan is not trustworthy. Allow me to say they are I trust them a lot. I'm very clear they are absolute trustworthy that they will do it again. They will do it again and again, and they will keep doing it till the time they come to their own end. A very befitting reply as brought up was that when they will fire at us, we will devastate them with our fire. If they will attack us, we will destroy them. Very beautiful, the escalation which we are talking about. What did we do? We declared it. We are coming for the terrorist camp or their AQA. We are coming for both. We went for both, and we didn't do anything more than that. What did you do? Pakistan sent their drones and missiles. What did we do? Our air defense stopped it then and there. But in return, we killed their air defense totally. What they tried to come to my cities by sending drones to the religious places like Amritsar, even Dal Lake, where they must be probably targeting either Shankaracharya or Hazrat Bal, but that fell inside that. But more important is, what did we do? When you were aiming for my military targets, I destroyed you militarily by making those 7, 8, 9 airfields unserviceable to you. You will be able to repair it. But then our intent, our ability and capability should be very clear. You tell me where you want, we will be there. You thought Lahore is beyond reach by anybody, you see the result. You thought Rawalpindi is beyond, we were there. You thought Noor Khan is your very strategic thing because you have 4 to 5 squadrons there, well, we have stuck you there also. You thought Sargodha is your God's own, well, no, we have destroyed that also. You want us wherever? No, I'll put it in another way, I'll put it on there. Okay, fine. Wherever you will come, we will be there. But wherever we will come, we will make sure that you are not there.
Okay. And that perhaps has been, displayed in action by our armed forces. Abhijit Iyer Mitra, and I've been saying this for the last couple of days, that amid all of the noise about Donald Trump announcing this understanding and the US taking away this entire credit competition and, making sure that Donald Trump does get the credit. One of the countries that we are not talking about extensively is that of the China-Turkey nexus, that these two countries, how they've aided Pakistan in its action against India, and how China would obviously want this entire conflict to continue because it doesn't want a stable India.
Shreya, I think the reason here is quite simple. We have no issues with credit hogs. Anybody can take credit. I don't know if you know this, but it wasn't the Congress that got India independence. I negotiated Indian independence in 1947. What does anybody lose? So let that be. Let's focus on the operational details out here. What did Turkey do? Turkey did a lot of PR for their drones during the Ukraine war. Did any of those drones ever manage to get through in India? We managed to shoot all of them down. We didn't even have to use our high-end defense systems like Spider or S-400. The army briefing 2 days back had made it very clear that we used basic anti-aircraft guns and indigenous anti-drone systems to down them. So what happened to the Turkish supply? The Pakistanis have wasted money on it. I don't know if you've seen the ridiculous Telegraph article today, by some Chinese shill, propagating how there was this glorious air battle and Rafales were grounded. Shreya, honestly, yesterday and day before yesterday, we saw massive scalp missile attacks on Pakistan. Only the Rafale fires scalps. Where was the question of the Rafale being grounded? So, you're going to see a lot of these things. That Telegraph article, in fact, starts off saying, well, the ambassador called up immediately. It then contradicts itself. Why does the ambassador need to get involved in military affairs? What does the ambassador know about operational affairs? They'll be very good at politics and things like that. But this is something that was done by their radars and whatnot, which the piece itself says. So, I'm not worried about this. If you actually look at China's actions minus the hyperbole, which Pakistan tends to do. If you remember, even when they did their nuclear test, Nawaz Sharif has to specifically, thank China. This is the old Middle Kingdom mentality where all
Abhijit, I get your point that it doesn't have any impact on the ground. But Ambassador Dayal, come in on this. Shouldn't we be choosing our friends wisely? International relations, of course, is not about charity. So you do have a give and take in every relationship that you have with other countries. Even though, Donald Trump is accused of being very transactory, I think international relations in general are transactionary in nature. Do you think diplomatically we've been able to achieve what India set out to achieve, and that is to make sure that Pakistan-sponsored terrorism is recognized by the world?
Well, first of all, the biggest diplomatic message which has gone is that India is a country which matters. The message to Pakistan is that we will not tolerate terrorism at all. In fact, the entire Operation Sindhoor was targeted at terrorism. And we made it clear that if you escalate, we will retaliate. And we showed them that we mean whatever we say. Now, what about friends? There are no permanent friends. There are no permanent enemies. There are only national interests. Now, China's national interests are such that they come into conflict with our national interests. China wants to dominate Asia and, in fact, the whole world. And they do not see India's rise as being in their interests. Now, that is where they use Pakistan. My enemy's enemy is my friend. So they have utilized Pakistan, they have armed it, they have funded it, because they want Pakistan to try and weaken India. And Pakistan uses terror as the weapon which it has been consistently using to try and bleed India by 1,000 cuts. In fact, this is what they have been professing all these years. We will bleed India by 1,000 cuts. And in this entire exercise, they get some support from China. In fact, a lot of support. Now, Turkey. You know, the Turkish government is a failed government. Erdogan is facing a lot of trouble at home. And in fact, he has an agenda which is very Islamic. And there, Pakistan fits him. But I must tell you that every Indian must stand up and make it clear to the Turks that we do not like what you have done. And one way of doing it is to avoid Turkey on the map of Indian tourists. You know, where lots of Indian tourists go to Turkey. Turkey gets money out of this. We should put an end to it. Similarly, we should avoid China-made products. We have to boycott these countries. Whatever the government does is one thing, but as the individual...
Sure, Ambassador Dayal, I absolutely agree with you, but I think avoiding China-made products is something that even the US hasn't been able to do so far. But yes, an attempt and a forward movement should be made towards that. I'm slipping into a short break. I'll come back to this conversation in a bit. But the message has been loud and clear. Any escalation will be met with an equal retaliation. No aggression will be tolerated and the response will be firm and punitive. In a joint briefing of the Tri-Services top brass, India has given out a stern warning to Pakistan against further provocation. If there will be any attempt to violate the ceasefire, Pakistan should be prepared for its worst nightmare.
We have quantitative and qualitative edge to deliver a massive blow to our adversary. Indian Navy's action is part of the escalation ladder mechanism which we have worked out amongst 3 services. This time, if Pakistan dare take any action, and Pakistan knows it, what we are going to do.
Operation Sindhoor was conceptualized with a clear military aim to punish the perpetrators and planners of terror and to destroy their terror infrastructure. There was also a term of reference and our own binding, self-imposed restriction to target only terrorists and thus prevent collateral damage. There were 9 camps that you are now all familiar with, which were confirmed by our various intelligence agencies to be inhabited. Some of these were in POJK, while there were others that were located in the Punjab province in Pakistan.
All right, so that was, of course, that presser that happened by the DGMOs. Let's quickly also tell you what that press conference had. It was telling us the detailed execution of Operation Sindhoor as well as the impact of it. And let's quickly get you the outcome of Operation Sindhoor. Number one is the fact that 35 to 40 Pakistani personnel have been killed in precise Indian strikes. Second outcome, several Pakistani Air Force jets have been downed by the Army, and that is the precision and skill that we are talking about here, viewers. High-tech Pakistani fighter jets have been downed by the Indian Air Force, clearly reflecting military prowess and superiority that we have over Pakistan. Outcome number 4, Pakistani planes stopped from entering into Indian airspace, and that is again a very crucial outcome of Operation Sindhoor. All Indian Air Force pilots are safe, they're back home, and that is one sigh of relief. Remember, another crucial point is more than 100 terrorists have been killed in Operation Sindhoor. That is a huge blow to Pakistan and its administration, which harbor terrorists on their soil. Outcome number 7, Indian Navy was ready. Karachi was among the targets. Naval prowess, remember, has been talked about constantly since Operation Sindhoor was launched. Outcome number 8, critical Pakistani defense infrastructure was demolished. You saw the entire presser giving out details, visual evidence as well as to what the Indian Armed Forces have done. Outcome number 9, 21 terror dens identified, 9 have been destroyed. And remember, the DGMOs also said there were more than 21, but we had to shortlist 21, out of which 9 were destroyed. And if need be, there will be more engagement and more strikes that will be done on these very terror camps. Outcome number 10, war against Pakistani terror. India wins big. That is, ladies and gentlemen, the impact that Operation Sindhoor has had on terrorism. Remember, this has been a war on terror after that first escalation on the 22nd of April happened in Pahalgam. This, ladies and gentlemen, has been the impact of the Indian Armed Forces and the decisive decisions of the Indian government. Let's also listen in to what the press conference had to say about the casualties that took place in Pakistan, as well as the unfortunate loss of lives that India had to face, with 5 brave hearts making that supreme sacrifice for the country.
On 8th of May, several Pakistani unmanned aerial systems, drones, combat vehicles attacked multiple IF bases. These included Jammu, Udhampur, Pathankot, Amritsar, Bhatinda, Nal, Dalhousie, Thois, Jaisalmer, Uttarlai, Falodi, Nalia. These were almost simultaneous and they came in waves. All our AD guns and other systems were waiting for them. All these waves were neutralized by our trained crew using the air defense systems that they have, and also some of them were utilized using our legacy systems like Pechoras.
The Pakistan Army has reported to have lost approximately 35 to 40 personnel in artillery and small arms firing on the line of control between the 7th and the 10th of May. What the other side had probably also not reckoned with was the speedy and precise turnaround and hit back by the Indian Air Force. And I will yet again ask Air Marshal Bharti to speak about these significant and game-changing strikes. I pay my solemn homage to my 5 fallen colleagues and brothers from the armed forces and civilians who have tragically lost their lives in Operation Sindhoor. Our hearts go out to the bereaved families, and we express our solidarity to them in this lifetime and beyond.
So the entire nation, of course, paying homage to those 5 brave hearts who've made the sacrifice. General Meston, since this Operation Sindhoor has been executed, there's been a talk of how there's a new security doctrine of India, how there's been change in stance, change in approach of how we approach and counter Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. And that perhaps reflects the kind of priorities and decision-making that has been happening in the country when we talk about countering terrorism emanating from Pakistan.
Yeah, absolutely very clear, Shreya. Our strategy to counter terrorism has evolved, and the latest strategy now is very clear. Any act of terrorism will be considered as an act of war. This has just been pronounced yesterday. So that implies we will not accept any kind of terrorism, whether it is emanating from Pakistan or whether it is emanating from Bangladesh. Mohammad Yunus of late has also been making a lot of such statements. So the message goes very, very clear to Mohammad Yunus and his protege. So coming on now to the overall issue, as regard the doctrine is concerned, see, again, we have achieved our strategic objectives with what force level? We have just used some missiles, and that's it. Nothing beyond this. But you see the impact on the target end, colossal. And who gave the call to the Indian DGMO? Who buckled down first? The Pakistan side. And the DGMO, he is a Major General, he reports to Asim Munir. And therefore, he has been told by Munir to give a call to the Indian DGMO. And therefore, they proposed and asked for this ceasefire. So they wanted to de-escalate. So all this has happened because of all the multi-dimensional pressures, including the Indus Water Treaty aspect. Now coming on to the major chunk, today the Indian Army, the ground forces and the Indian Navy is fully ready to do anything, any maneuver. And you have heard the DGMO. Instructions have been passed to all the army commanders in the Western theatre. Any misadventure by Pakistan will be met very, very severely. Similarly, the DGMO, that is the naval operations, has stated very clearly that we are ready and we are deployed there, we are maneuvering, and if Pakistan goes in any trajectory, it will suffer huge losses. So all this has made an impact. This is part of our doctrine now. So we will not accept terrorism in any form. And this has made a huge impact. And I think last night, the Shahbaz Sharif's address has also acknowledged that yes, we have suffered huge losses. He stated very clearly, हमारे ज़ख़ीरे और arms or ammunition terms, airfields, radar sites, everything has been struck. So he is also acknowledged. So overall, what I would say, our doctrine has paid, and the message now which has gone off late is that India shall not accept any terrorism and it will be considered an act of war. That means heavy retaliation will be they will expect from India, and they have to now bend their way. They have to shed terrorism, and this is what we want.
Right.
We do not want any terrorism emanating from these two countries, because the second country is also starting giving some statement that they are ready to hit India in form of terrorism, and that's how he made that statement of Seven Sisters in conjunction with China. So, and with China, we have been, as it is, very firm on the northern border. We have shown them with our stance in Galwan. We have shown them with our stance in the negotiations, strong negotiations in DBU and Demchok. So, I think our national resolve has come out very clearly, and this is India's battle, and we will fight it well, Shreya.
Okay. All right, I'll come back to this conversation. Let's also listen into what Vice Admiral A.N. Pramod, the DG of Indian Navy Operations, said about, deployment in the Northern Arabian Sea that was in a decisive and deterrent posture with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi. Listen into what he said.
Our forces remained forward deployed in the Northern Arabian Sea in a decisive and deterrent posture with full readiness and capacity to strike select targets at sea and on land, including Karachi at time of our choosing. The forward deployment of the Indian Navy compelled Pakistani naval and air units to be in a defensive posture, mostly inside harbors or very close to the coast, which we monitored continuously.
Colonel Singh, one of the things that has also come out wonderfully from Operation Sindhoor is how our three forces have integrated and coordinated this entire operation very smoothly, achieving the kind of targets that it set out to.
That is called as professionalism. That is called as when you prepare sweat and peace for 365 days in a year, then on the 366th day, you achieve this. It is not easy, let me tell you. It is all not only technology. But I like the word of the Naval Journal. And I'm using Naval Journal because the public may not get confused that Naval Journal is who is Vice Admiral of the Navy. And what did he say again? I'll say so naturally it came out to him. जब अंदर से कोई बात निकलती है, then your language is very different. He says massive blow. Oh my God. He could have said we would have given a blow, but he's using the word massive blow. Why? Because he knows that yes, where we are. I must tell you about that high technology weapon systems. Yes, that was a very, very high technology junk came from China in terms of that JF-17 or in terms of that air defense system. I think the world gets proved. China must be very angry with Pakistan. And when we say that we will give them, well, let me tell you, we will give them such prohibitive losses which they cannot afford. And we will continue to give it till the time their will is broken to do anything beyond what they have already done. Be rest assured, Pakistan, we are coming to you, we are waiting for you.
Abhijit, it's all very well to say that China and Turkey have aided Pakistan, but it hasn't had the kind of impact that perhaps Pakistan wanted. But none of these countries, Washington, United States of America, Turkey, China, or any other European country have come out and condemned directly Pakistan-sponsored terrorism. What is the difficulty in doing so? Why is it that Pakistan is such a darling of the West? Is it only because it has strategic importance against China, against India? They want to keep it as a country that is subservient to the West and use it against India?
Look, Pakistan's basic thing is it's essentially the international mercenary for hire. So if you have, if Wagner Group had a state, that would be Pakistan, just a brown version of the Wagner Group. So what happens out here is you never know when you're going to need mercenaries some international engagement. It's not India specific, it's just anything specific. The only point is nobody has any use for Pakistan right now, which is why nobody's bailing out Pakistan. But other than that, Pakistan's use has always been that it is up for other people's misadventures, even sometimes at great cost to itself. Now, we need to remember, it's not just a case of what happened in Pahalgam. When those terrorists were killed after our strikes, you saw members of the army attending their funerals. You know, that was a very blatant flex in that sense, saying, yeah, we support terrorism. What are you going to do? The air spokesperson, the Pakistan Air Force spokesperson, Aurangzeb Ahmed, I think his name is, literally admitted that Pulwama was an act of tactical brilliance.
Yeah.
He literally admitted to doing Pulwama, you see. Now, we ultimately need to look within ourselves and ask ourselves, where have we failed in our foreign policy to get so many countries across a broad range to essentially crack the whip on Pakistan?
Okay, Ambassador Dayal, do you want to come in on this? Why is it that, the West, the European countries are not calling out Pakistan directly?
Because they're not getting hurt directly. You know, the West has tolerated Pakistan till something that Pakistan does hurts them. Now, till now, whatever has happened between India and Pakistan, they're looking at all this from a distance. But they treat it as the normal sort of hostility between India and Pakistan. Trump has said that this has gone on for 1,000 years, etc. I lived in Pakistan in the early 80s, about 4 decades ago, and I witnessed a lot of hostility that they had for India. And that has continued. It is in their genes. And what I had seen at that time was that there was an umbilical relationship between the Pakistani establishment and terror groups. Now, our big challenge is, regardless of what the West thinks, regardless of what the Turks and the Chinese are up to, we have to be on guard, we have to be alert, because this menace of terrorism is not going to go away so easily. We have struck a blow, but it is not dead. It has a tendency to revive. So Operation Sindhoor is something that will go on, and it has to be made clear to the Pakistanis, perhaps through repeated strikes, that we are not going to take things lying down. We are going to be very vigilant. And as far as China is concerned, of course, we are dependent on China for many things for our industrial use. But the individual user, you, me, all of us, can make it very sure that we are not ending up buying anything that is directly made in China. If there are some components inside, we can't help it. But we have to be very conscious of who our enemies are. China is an enemy, and China stands behind Pakistan, helps Pakistan in every manner possible, because it wants to use Pakistan against us. So I think the entire diplomatic posturing has to involve assessing what our interests are, who's hurting our interests, and what have we to do to protect these interests.
Okay. One of the things, therefore, General Meston, is the concern, then you can strike their air bases, you can, kill their terror camps and kill more than 100 terrorists. But what is the solution then? How do you deal with Pakistan? How do you kill the mindset that is anti-India?
Absolutely. The mindset of Pakistan has to be sorted out, and that has hit their center of gravity. What is the Pakistan center of gravity? It is the Pak Army, and when I say Pak Army, it is the top military leadership. And now, perhaps, if they try to escalate or do anything, I think the next strike should be on these people. The way we have struck those so many terrorists, high-value targets, Asim Munir is a high-value target. We have to strike him. See, as it is, let me be very clear. Pakistanis have got a lot of resentment against Asim Munir, including in the armed forces. Yesterday on a TV channel, I was with one of the retired Pakistan Army majors, and one could hear, the kind of sentiments he was expressing against Munir. He actually went to the extent of calling him a psycho. So the whole problem is the Munir wants to remain in chair, not remain in chair, he wants to be a replica of Muhammad Ali Jinnah and Zia-ul Haq and of course Pervez Musharraf. So he wants to go down into the history as something, a great general and a great politician. and discard all these politicians. And yeah, this officer also stated that all these Pakistan politicians are the orderlies of these Pakistani generals. So the center of gravity is Asim Munir and of course the DGISI, that system, and we need to target that. And there are large number of ways to target. One is of course the kinetic. There are other ways, and also the Indus Water Treaty is a very bold step we have taken that will have a great impact on the people of Pakistan. And when they get, when they feel the pinch, they will rise up in arms against their own army. That is, and it has happened. See, Corps commander's house was burned and military bases were attacked, Air Force base just 2 years back. So there is a lot of resentment among the Pakistanis. And let me tell you, yesterday with Shahbaz Sharif's address, people in Pakistan would be questioning, Bola kya? What has he conveyed to us? He has given a very defeated narrative. Everything, ki hamare zakire barbaad kar diye, ye kar diye. So Pakistan, people will ask, why the hell you are talking about Pakistan Army so professional? What have they done? And they were the ones who asked for the ceasefire. People will question, and credibility of Pakistan Army is going down, and each day it is going down, and the way they are being hit in Balochistan and by TTP and Afghan Taliban, I think it is to our national interest. And maybe if they don't honor this ceasefire, they will suffer. And once and for all, we need to sort out their center of gravity so that, this the image he has made himself around that he's a hell of a great person and a great leader of Pakistan. Imagine Marco Rubio had to speak to him. Can you ever imagine a Secretary of State speaking to any army chief? These are all basic violation of all protocols. So he also knows that the power emanates from this person. And this person is a center of gravity. Maybe our job may be done by the local people there, by the arm, and maybe even by the Pakistan Army, maybe the junior officers, because 40 casualties have suffered. They will also ask questions. Why we have suffered? Why? What is the reason? So obviously this is what
Shehbaz Sharif claimed victory over India yesterday in his address to Pakistan. So obviously he's misleading his citizens, his entire country. But Colonel Singh, there's also a lot of call for a full-fledged war. But the fact of the matter is that in this case, India has more to lose than Pakistan. You're fighting against a bankrupt country which has nothing to lose. Economically, they're poor. They don't have jobs. The entire scenario is not very encouraging, as opposed to India, which is a stable economy. It's progressing day by day. And therefore, when you have such calls for full-fledged wars, you also need to consider the kind of losses that it will have in India as well.
You see, when 140 crore people are angry and demanding a full-fledged war, we have to take it correctly also. There is a beautiful saying that this is not an era of war. And any era of war, whether it is between, let's say, Russia or Ukraine, to some extent Israel, not that only the winner will, win, they will also lose. We do understand that. In a bigger way, the public must understand this ceasefire, it has prevailed over our better senses now, that there is a China factor involved where the China wants that we should bleed. We should bleed economically. That is very important. And the moment we have started understanding that by getting more and more into this war, yes, we may win it ultimately, is not the problem. But we will also bleed economically. The growth, ladder which we are on to, where we are heading for a third largest economy and all those things, well, that will get compromised. And a bigger thing is what you asked, what is the solution for this whole problem of Pakistan? Well, I'll put it like this. Destroy them economically. You will see everything falling in place. I can guarantee it to you. Give that Baluch what Baluch are doing, TTP doing, Afghans are doing. Give this country back what they are expert at. Speak to their language by these people. If Pakistan believes in terrorism, suppression, then let Baluch do the job. Let us start coming out openly the way they are. A bigger thing, I'll put it like this. Any action and every action of terrorism should not be overlooked. There is nothing called as a threshold. Any kind of terrorist attack today, should the onus lie on Pakistan to give a proof that no, sir, we were not there. We have nothing to do with it.
Yeah.
You see, unless that pressure is coming there, that no, this is only a ceasefire, and it is a ceasefire where we are saying, okay, fine, military action not done. What about terrorism? We are free. What about water? We are free. There's nothing called a ceasefire on that.
You know, I think India's External Affairs Minister has been very careful in choosing his words. He's not even called it ceasefire. He called it an understanding of stopping of firing at the borders. And that is something that now, of course, we'll have to see how it goes forward, considering that Pakistan cannot be trusted. But I'll leave this conversation here. Hopefully, we will have an end to this conflict unless Pakistan chooses to escalate once again. Thank you to all of you, gentlemen. Colonel Singh, General Meston, Abhijit Iyer Mitra, as well as Ambassador Dayal. Thank you very much to all of you for joining us on the broadcast, sharing your perspective. With that, ladies and gentlemen, it's time for a short break. Thanks very much for joining us at the moment. News and updates will continue on the other side.